regulations can be analyzed, assessed, evaluated. We can remove, amend, invalidate, or create new regulations that would be beneficial to the ease of doing business. We also have this program about government services. This is the Artemis, which is the anti-red tape electronic management information system. This is a database of all the government agencies and their services. So meaning that the services will be accessed by the transacting public and even the government agencies. So with these two major programs, I think the government or even the transacting public would be, safe to say, would have easy access and have an environment for promoting the ease of doing business. And I think there's one more question regarding complaints. We are receiving complaints actually, but if there's any specific thing that you want to ask. Our complaints handling system right now is not yet digitalized. We are actually doing in a manual way, but we are in the process of digitalizing our electronic complaints management system. Thank you.
Thank you, Undersecretary Abot. Next question is from Joyce Rocamora, Philippine News Agency for the Department of Tourism.
Good morning, Secretary Frasco. I'd like to ask, ma'am, given a good first half performance, will the DOT revise or recalibrate its arrival target as well as projected tourism receipts for the year? And I'd like to ask also, when do you see the country achieving its pre-pandemic figures, ma'am? Thank you.
2023 was a phenomenal year for Philippine tourism, with tourism contributing no less than 3.36 trillion pesos to our economy in terms of international and domestic visitor receipts. We've also seen, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the highest ever recorded growth rate in terms of tourism direct gross value added to the gross domestic product. And so the contribution of tourism now to the GDP stands at 8.6%. These numbers have translated to that which matters most in everything that we do in the Department of Tourism and in our President's very clear vision for tourism. That is to provide jobs to our fellow Filipinos. In 2023, over 6.21 million Filipinos were employed in tourism. That accounts for 12.9% of our entire national employment rate. And therefore, what we're seeing is a strong resurgence of tourism post-pandemic. We have to understand, however, that it was complete and utter devastation that was suffered by the Philippine tourism industry as a result of the ravages of the pandemic, not to mention all the climate-related crises that have come upon our shores. And tourism faces the unique challenge of only being able to succeed with collaboration with other government agencies. That's why the thrust has really been towards convergence and heavy government investment as far as infrastructure is concerned. Over 96.6 billion was invested by government in tourism in 2023, and tourism investments also amounted to 500 billion pesos. All of these we see to assist Philippine tourism as we move towards being able to recover our pre-pandemic numbers. However, post-pandemic, the view of the world has changed as far as tourism is concerned, in that we not only see or calculate tourism success as far as the warm bodies that come upon our jurisdiction, but rather, more importantly, as far as visitor receipts. Because it is the tourism spending that allows the economy to roll as fast as it should. And what we're seeing is that the Philippines has already recovered over 100% of its visitor receipts from its 2019 numbers, and also exceeds the 94% global average of recovery as far as visitor receipts is concerned. With this upward trajectory of the performance of Philippine tourism under the Marcos administration, what we anticipate is that in the same way that we were able to exceed our targets as far as visitor receipts are concerned for 2023, that we would be able to achieve the same feat for 2024. However, we anticipate that as far as arrivals are concerned, unless and until we are able to fully ease the convenience of coming into the Philippines, especially as far as e-visas are concerned, it does remain a challenge. And so we received the President's directive to fully implement the e-visa with much optimism in the hopes that it will be implemented by the DFA as soon as possible in cooperation with the Bureau of Immigration, as well as the forthcoming improvement of our airports, which will ensure more seamless arrival into the country.
Thank you, Secretary Garcia Frasco. For Secretary Laurel, we have Mr. Jasper R. Calas of Philippine Star.
Morning, Sec. Sec, how optimistic are you that you will be able to hit your target that agriculture and fisheries production would expand between 1% and 2% this year? And what would be the drivers for such growth?
Well, yung this year's targets actually medyo not too easy, no? Because we started with El Nino in January, kakatapos lang ng June, and now we're coming with La Nina. But of course, we have more irrigated land, as mentioned by the President, na yung sa Halaur nga, 32,000 hectares, and another 45,000 hectares na bibigyan ng solar irrigation. That will definitely increase production. But then, I'm hopeful naman na sana walang malaking bagyong tumama at yung La Nina na darating ay, of course, El Nino talaga mas mababa ang production ng konti. Pero sa La Nina, as long as walang malaking bagyo, I think we should be mas mataas ang production.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Jervis Manahan of ABS-CBN, still for Department of Agriculture.
Hi, Sec. Good morning. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said that we are projected to import 4.7 million metric tons of rice this year because of the lower tariffs. Are we expecting more imports this year, or are we expecting our imports to reach record high?
Well, yung unang estimate ng USDA was 4 million. I'm actually surprised na nag-increase nila to 4.7. But I don't think the lowering of tariffs will really increase importation. There's no real bearing in my opinion. No? Ang the only reason mag-i-increase ang importation is because of demand, not because of lowering tariff. If there's kulang ang demand, kahit mababa, kahit zero tariff pa yan, mas konti importation. So it's basically demand driven. So I really don't think aabot tayo ng 4.7.
Thank you. We also have our Secretary Estrella. From PTV4, Soo Jin Kim.
Good morning po, Sec. For Sec Australia, what have the DAR's land distribution and support services for agrarian reform beneficiaries, or ARBs, what have they specifically changed, or how much has it contributed to food security po?
Can you please repeat
Okay po.
your question?
What have the DAR's land distribution and support services for agrarian reform beneficiaries contributed to food security?
Well, yung ginagawa namin ngayon na pinagsisipagan namin ang paparcelize ng mga collective titles that were issued earlier, no? Kasi nung una, meron tayong tinatawag na Collective Certificate of Land Ownership Award, no? Isang titulo, maraming may-ari. Nagkaroon ng confusion, kaya hindi malaman kung sino yung talagang may-ari o kaya kung saan siya magtatanim. Kaya ginagawa namin ngayon, nagpa-parcelize kami para nang sa ganon, yung ownership well-determined, no? Kaya ang nangyayari dito ngayon, pinagsisipagan namin ang mamigay ng mga titulo na talagang sila na ang may-ari at alam kung saan sila magsasaka. And because of this, napansin namin, hindi na chaotic, walang confusion, alam na nila kung saan sila magtatanim. Kaya nung nagkaroon ng inisyo nila itong collective CLOA, bumagsak ang production. Ngayon, alam na nila kung saan sila magtatanim. Tumataas ang production. Kaya yan ang nagiging contribution natin sa food security. At binibigyan din natin ng mga support services ang ating mga agrarian reform beneficiaries. Katulad halimbawa ng mga modern and binibigyan natin sila ng mga modern equipment. Binibigyan natin sila ng mga mahahalaga katulad ng halimbawa itong tinatawag na para ma-produce nila. Marami silang ma-produce na planting materials, ginagawa na lang sa laboratory ang mga kailangan nila na pananim. At binibigyan din natin sila ng bagong teknolohiya. Inilalapit natin sa modernized and scientific farming, kaya mas mataas ang production nila. At dahil dito, tumataas. Marami tayong napoproduce ang mga magsasaka. At palagay ko, yan din ang nakakontribute. No? Kaya mas malaki ang ani natin ngayon sa dinami-dami ng ating mga lupa na titulo na pamigay sa mga magsasaka. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Estrella, and thank you to our friends from the media for your questions. At this point, we will give time to our panelists for their quick final remarks, starting with the Anti-Red Tape Authority Undersecretary, Genesis Abbott.
Yeah, thank you, Daphne. I'd like to read my closing statement. Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat ulit. On behalf of our Director General, Secretary Ernesto B. Ferres, and the young men and women of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, I want to express our sincere gratitude to the Presidential Communications Office and the Presidential Management Staff for hosting the post-SONA discussion forum, allowing us to expound on President Marcos Jr.'s call for a streamlined bureaucracy and a more business-friendly environment. Our mandate is clear: to transform the way government services are delivered. We aim to achieve this through a whole-of-nation approach, fostering innovation and good regulatory practices. In simpler terms, we are here to cut the red tape and to roll out the red carpet for all. The President's vision for a bagong Pilipinas hinges on a government that works for its citizens, not against them. As we have heard from the SONA, in just 2 years, the administration has implemented numerous projects and initiatives aimed at addressing different issues in society. ARTA is here to ensure that these projects and services will be delivered fast, on time, and on schedule. ARTA is here to help the President make this vision a reality. But we cannot do it alone. ARTA does not see itself as just an authority. We see ourselves as partners. Partners with all stakeholders, both public and private. To our colleagues in the government, let us commit to continuous collaboration for improvement. Let us identify and dismantle unnecessary regulations and processes. Let us embrace technology to streamline processes. To our partners in the private sector, your voices matter. Share your experiences, both positive and negative. Together, we can identify bottlenecks and work towards solutions. This is a collective effort. By working hand in hand under whole-of-nation approach, we can make the Philippines a more attractive destination for businesses, a place where Filipinos can thrive, and a nation that truly embodies the spirit of a bagong Pilipinas. The road ahead may not be easy, but with our strong spirit of collaboration, we will turn President Marcos Jr.'s directives into tangible results. Let us all be catalysts for change and be a part of the solution. Let us prove that that in the Philippines, there is ease of doing business. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas.
Thank you. A round of applause for ARTA. Thank you for the ease of doing business. And now, Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs, Secretary Frederick D. Go.
Thank you. I will keep mine short. I would like to thank everyone here today and our friends from media for the opportunity to share the country's economic gains and our roadmap towards an inclusive, resilient, and sustainable economy. We will pursue initiatives that will improve the ease of doing business, reduce friction costs, streamline processes and regulations, and elevate the country's global competitiveness to secure strategic investments that contribute to the local industry development, such as Create More. Our vision is one of a thriving, investment-led economy that creates opportunities for every Filipino today and in the years to come. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Go. And from National Economic and Development Authority, Secretary Arsenio Balisacan.
At the beginning of the Marcos administration, we crafted a blueprint that would help us as we emerge from the pandemic and navigate the challenges of economic recovery. This blueprint, the PDP, or Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, contained the strategies and priorities we must implement to meet our development goals. The question is, 2 years later, 2 years in, are we on track? Broadly, we are, as amply demonstrated in the President's SONA. Perhaps the most important proof of this, the good news reported in SONA, we lifted about 2.5 million Filipinos out of poverty, reducing our poverty incidence to 15.5% in 2023 from 18.1% in 2021, exceeding even the target we identified under the PDP. Even more encouraging, the poorer Filipinos' average per capita income grew faster than the average for the entire population, notwithstanding elevated food prices, indicating that economic growth was inclusive as intended by the PDP. Comparatively, economic growth is robust and our employment indicators are improving and better than ever. This means that we are heading in the right direction. We can accelerate our progress if we are able to keep inflation low and manageable, and we have no doubt we will be able to do so. We have learned much over the last 2 years as we recalibrated our policies and programs to adjust to changing economic conditions. President Marcos' marching orders for his third year are clear and reflect our nation's development priorities. Though difficult, we must work hard and address the constraints to food security and economic development more broadly. We promise no shortcuts. However, the Filipino people can be assured that the whole of government is addressing our nation's most pressing concerns. Ultimately, what matters to us is not whether we are merely hitting our economic targets. For us in NEDA, the most relevant benchmark is whether our people can afford their needs and wants and are able to live strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure lives. Salamat.
Thank you, Secretary Balisacan. Department of Agrarian Reform Secretary Conrado M. Estrella III.
Thank you so much. Sa atin, mga kasamahan, atin mga agrarian reform beneficiaries na nakikinig ngayon, magpasalamat po tayo sa atin mahal na Panginoon sapagkat ang lupa na naibibigay sa inyo ay libre na po. Wala na pong kasamang utang ito. At ito pong libreng lupa at isang tambak pong support services na ibibigay sa inyo ay babangon tayo muli. Sana po wag natin ibenta ang ating mga lupa. May pag-asa pa po tayo, uunlad pa ang mga magsasaka. And by the way, ang maganda po dito sa Republic Act na nilagdaan ng ating Pangulo, ang Republic Act 11953, ang New Agrarian Emancipation Act, ay meron hong nakatago rito na isang diamante. Ito po ay ang exemption ng mga heirs ng mga agrarian reform beneficiaries sa real estate tax. Kung halimbawa ho, dumating ang panahon na yumaon na ang inyong mga magulang, yun hong paglipat sa inyong sa mga heirs sa tagapagmana ay hindi na po mahihirapan. Kaya po mga ating magsasaka, babangon tayong uli. Salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Estrella. Department of Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel Jr.
Well, ang DA ay patuloy na makiisa sa adhikain ng Pangulo at walang magugutom sa bagong Pilipinas. Ito ay patuloy na isasagawa nating kagawaran sa pamamagitan ng pagsusulong ng mga nararapat na interventions at policies tungkol sa masaganang agrikultura at maunlad na ekonomiya. Ang magandang performance and accomplishments sa sektor na naging possible sa pamamagitan ng pagsama-samang suporta ng buong pamahalaan or whole of government approach para sa mga magsasaka, mangingisda. Ipapasalamat ang kagawaran sa ating Pangulo sa karagdagang 30% taunang appropriation para sa Department of Agriculture mula ng 2022 hanggang ngayon 2024. Makakaasa po kayo sa pamamagitan ng pondong nilaan sa ating kagawaran ay may pagpatuloy natin ang mga programa at proyekto para sa pagpaunlad ng ating sektor. Pagaya na lamang ng pagpapalakas at pagpapataas ng lokal na produksyon, pag-construct at pag-aayos ng mga farm-to-market roads, pagtatayo ng mga karagdagang irigasyon, pag-develop ng ating mga fish ports at iba pang mga proyekto na naglalayong matunugan ang pangangailangan ng ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda upang mapabuti ang ating agricultural production. Gaya ng sinabi ng ating mahal na Pangulo sa kanyang State of the Nation address kahapon, sa kabila ng mga pagsubok at hinaharap ng ating mga sektor tulad ng problema ng supply, puwersa ng kalikasan, giyera at iba pang mga nasaksihan para rin natin maging development ang ating sektor. Gaya ng pagtaas ng produksyon ng palay sa pagkalipas na taon. Ito ay dahil sa mga naiparating na iba't ibang tulong o assistance sa ating mga pangsasaka at mangingisda sa aspektong teknikal at piskal. Per quote of our President yesterday, whatever current data proudly bannering our country as among the best performing in Asia means nothing to a Filipino who is confronted by the price of rice at 45 to 65 pesos per kilo. It is very important indeed to note that despite the flattering data, isa pa din ang Pilipinas sa mga labis na apektuhan sa mga challenges na kaugnay sa world market. Nais din namin parating sa ating mga kababayan na ang DA ay patuloy makipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan upang magsugpo ang kartel na patuloy sa pagpupuslit ng mga smuggled agri-fisheries products na nakaka-impluwensya sa mga presyo ng ating mga local basic commodities. Sa sektor ng agrikultura, ika nga ng ating Pangulo, we mean serious business. Patuloy po magsusumikap ang kagawaran ng agrikultura na magplano, magdisenyo at magpatupad ng transformative interventions para sa gawing moderno at profitable ang ating mga sektor tungo sa adhikain ng masaganang bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Tiu Laurel. And now the Department of Finance Secretary Ralph Recto.
Thank you, Daphne. In spite of all the global economic challenges, considering that we just came out of a pandemic, that there are two hot wars, there is a trade war, there is a cold war. In spite of all of this, the last 2 years of the Marcos administration grew by roughly an average of 6.1%. To be able to attain our goals by 2028 in the Philippine Development Plan of reducing poverty to 9%, we have to grow an average of anywhere from 6 to 7% for the remainder of the term of the President. We are on track. Today, you have roughly 49 million people working, the highest ever in our history. Pinakamababa ang unemployment rate, pinakamababa ang underemployment rate, mas maraming nagtatrabaho, the middle class is growing, yung share of wage and salary workers is roughly at 64%, at katulad na nabanggit ni Secretary RC kanina, 2.5 million na ang nabawasan sa kahirapan simula nung si Pangulo ay si Bongbong Marcos ay naging Pangulo. Ang target by 2028 is to reduce poverty incidence to a single digit to 9%. Ibig sabihin nun, 10 milyon pa ang mababawasan natin sa kahirapan who will elevate their life to higher than the poverty incidence. No? So yan naman talaga ang dahilan kung bakit tayong lahat nandito, to reduce poverty incidence para magkaroon ng magandang buhay ang ating mga kababayan, para nga tayo magkaroon ng bagong Pilipinas. So maraming salamat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Recto. Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Alfredo Pascual.
Thank you. The DTI is committed to continue to create a competitive business environment to attract foreign investment and encourage our local businesses to invest more in our country. We're also committed to generate high quality and better paying jobs for our people as we expand our industries and economy. We want our economy to be driven by science, technology, and innovation. That's why our support to startups, because they will be the source of innovation for our country. We will play our important role in ensuring consumer protection while addressing food logistics and the supply chain. Aligned with the market trust of Bagong Pilipinas, the DTI vision is encapsulated in our new slogan, Angat Negosyo, Asenso Trabaho, Alagang Consumer para sa Bagong Pilipinas. We are here to enhance the role of MSMEs by providing them comprehensive support from mentoring to technology to access to market using the modern approaches like e-commerce platforms. We are also here to ensure that investors, when they come in, are taken care of fully through our green lanes, for one. And more importantly, we will continue our work to enhance consumer protection by making sure that regulated products are well prevented to being accessed by those who are not supposed to have them, like minors, should not have easy access to vape products. That's why recently I issued an order suspending the online sale of vape products, and I hope that will protect the health of our young people, which is the hope of our motherland. So we're here to work with our colleagues from the other departments of the government in order to achieve the goals and objectives of Bagong Pilipinas para sa pag-unlad ng bagong Pilipino. Salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Pascual. And now, Department of Tourism Secretary Maria Cristina Garcia Frasco.
Thank you, Daphne, and thank you to the Presidential Communications Office for organizing this most enlightening forum, especially for the public. We are grateful that our President has, from the very beginning of his administration, seen the vast potential of tourism to uplift the Philippine economy. Tourism is now one of the strongest pillars of our economy and is a source of livelihood for millions of Filipinos. Everywhere you go, across the vast expanse of our archipelagic nation, you will never run out of reasons to love the Philippines. But it requires government intervention as well as private sector collaboration to truly ensure that Philippine tourism reaches the maximum of its potential and is able to provide as many jobs and opportunities as possible to our fellow Filipinos. Therefore, we are encouraged by the President's prioritization of tourism, especially in terms of infrastructure investment, and we welcome that he has prioritized the passage of the Create More Bill, which will surely inure for the Philippines more tourism investment. We're also grateful to the private sector for their invaluable partnership in supporting our President's programs that seek to elevate the competitiveness of the Philippine tourism industry. Apart from the investments in infrastructure, most importantly, we continue to invest in our people. The Filipino people are the best assets of Philippine tourism, which is why in 2023, more than 200,000 Filipino tourism workers have been trained in the Filipino brand of service excellence, which shall ensure that our tourists, when they come to the Philippines and go around the country, that they will have an unforgettable and positive experience that will encourage them to come back again and again. Through the programs instituted by the Department of Tourism in full support of our President's vision to anchor Philippine tourism's success on the Philippine identity, we have seen this to have engendered pride of place, love of nation, and tourism continues to be a force for unity for our country precisely because our President has rallied the entire nation to support this sector. Magpasalamat sad ko sa atong mga kaigsuunang Pilipino, labi na sa Kabisayan ug sa Mindanao sa ilang dako kaayo nga suporta sa Administrasyong Marcos tungod kay nakita nato nga gihatagan gayud og importansya sa atong presidente ang atong mga lugar sa Pilipinas, matagaan sila og dako kaayong higayon nga mulambo pa pamaagi sa turismo. Pinapasalamatan natin yung lahat ng ating kababayan sa inyong pagmamahal sa Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po sa inyong suporta sa ating presidente at para sa turismo ng Pilipinas. Love the Philippines.
Thank you, Secretary Garcia Frasco. Department of Budget and Management Secretary Amena Pangandaman.
Good morning once again. First of all, allow me to express my congratulations again to PBBM for a very powerful, direct, authentic, and moving State of the Nation address yesterday. Inspired by yesterday's SONA and by a dynamic leadership of our President, we at the DBM will remain committed to implement key transformational reforms that will bring our country to upper middle income status and bring poverty down to single-digit levels. Our proposed national budget for next year, which is pegged at 6.352 trillion peso, will adhere to the Philippine Development Plan and 8-point socio-economic agenda and will remain highly responsive to the most urgent national concerns of our Filipino people, and that is to address inflation, to provide job to everyone, reduce poverty, and combat graft and corruption. Our national budget for next year is guided by the theme Agenda for Prosperity, fulfilling the needs and aspirations of the Filipino people. Our goal, as always, is to uplift the lives of the Filipino people. Hence, social services will remain on top of our list. As mandated by the Constitution, education will corner the largest percentage of the national budget, followed by health sector to be prioritized as we seek to improve healthcare, especially in the regions. Next is the economic services, as we continue the Build Better More infrastructure program, including digital infrastructure. We are also on a mission to empower our local government units, including BARM, to ensure, pursue lasting peace and economic development in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. We are also seeking to achieve food security by strengthening our agriculture sector. As PBBM mentioned in his SONA, we are improving our irrigation systems nationwide. So nagkatotoo po ang bulong niya sa akin. We have allocated 42 billion pesos for our irrigation systems nationwide for next year. We thank the President for signing the law, the new Government Procurement Act or NGPA last Saturday, July 20, 2024. I believe that this is one of the greatest measures this administration to take to combat corruption. The NGPA will ensure not only competitiveness, efficiency, and sustainability, but greater transparency in the government process. procurement process. At the DBM, we are working hard to create a culture of transparency and good governance. I am proud to share that the last open budget survey showed that the Philippines is #1 in budget transparency in Asia, as we scored a rate of 76, surpassing the government target under the PDP plan of only 71. We are also now the leader in the Open Government Partnership as the Philippines joins the Open Government Partnership International Steering Committee and is one of the first nations to institutionalize open government through Executive Order Number 31, signed by no less than our President. Under the leadership of President Bongbong Marcos, we remain steadfast in cementing our position as a global leader in budget transparency, oversight, and public participation in the process. We remain on track with our agenda for prosperity. Let us sustain this momentum. And if I may echo the President's SONA yesterday, for our dear cabinet secretaries, we expect all agencies to ensure that every centavo allocated will be judiciously spent for our urgent priorities and socially impactful programs. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Pangandaman. Now we hear from National Irrigation Administrator Eduardo Guillen.
Maraming salamat po at nagpapasalamat rin ako kay DBM Secretary Mina. Sabi niya sa akin kanina, ako daw ay MAP Administrator, most annoyingly persistent. Makulit, sabi niya, pero salamat ma'am. Ano po? Well, ang masahan po ng ating mga mamayan sa NIA itong susunod mga taon ay simplify ko lamang po. Ang problema natin kasi sa agrikultura is yung low productivity ang tinatawag. Nabanggit ko naman sa inyo kung ano yung mga diskarte natin gagawin. Ano po? Increase natin yung ating cropping intensity, increase natin yung ating yield, and of course yung ating infrastructure. Pero meron lamang po akong banggitin dito na hindi nabanggit ng ating Pangulo sa kanyang SONA na alam ko bilang engineer, napaka-importante. Ito po yung kanyang paradigm shift from flood control to water management. So, makakatulong natin ng ibang agency, yung convergence project natin with DPWH. Napakalaki ho ang flood control na budget ng DPWH. Pero nilagyan po yan dyan sa aming convergence ng irrigation. May pakinabang na po tayo sa irrigation. Yung dating pakinabang natin sa flood control na sa social and environmental lamang, nagkaroon po siya kaya ng economic benefit. So para sa akin po, ito yung triple bottom line concept. Dito natin makikita na yung build better more ng ating Pangulo ay hindi lamang isang slogan, kundi talagang totoong makakatulong sa atin lahat at magdadala sa atin. Ito yung crossroads ng Philippine agriculture. Kasi pag dinagdagan mo yung irrigation facilities, tataas ang ating productivity, tataas ang ating yield. Dito mo makikita din ang mindset ng ating Pangulo. Doon, sa aming mga Ilocano, ito yung kakuriputan namin na titignan natin na bawat sentabo na nandun ay may spend natin ng mas magandang pamamaraan. So, makakatulong po ito ng malaki. Pag na-expand mo kasi yung ating irrigation infrastructure, bababa pati yung poverty alleviation natin. Alam naman natin lahat sa report ng PSA, nasa 60% ang mahirap ay nandun sa agriculture sector. So mapababa po natin ito. And of course, ang pangako naman natin sa ating mga Irrigators Association sa buong bansa, ang tawag namin po sa kanila ay BBM, mga bagong bayaning magsasaka. Na ang NIA ay katuwang po nila lagi sa pagpapaunlad. Of course, ang Department of Agriculture, na katuwang nila kami na mapaunlad ang kabuhayan nila. So, ito po ang ating asahan po sa NIA. Kami po ay magtutulungan ng mga convergence project natin, lalo na with the Department of Agriculture. Magtutulungan po kami para ang ating mga magsasaka ay magawa natin, ang utos kasi sa atin ng ating Pangulo ay dapat yung mga farmers hindi lang naman producers of goods. Dapat gawin din natin silang consumers of goods and services. Ito ang alam natin na talagang makakatulong sa ating lahat tungo sa ating binibithing bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Administrator Guillen. And now we hear from Department of Interior Local Government Undersecretary Odi Pasaraba.
Yeah, thank you so much once again. As the department is called to support national government agencies, as well, of course, to the development goal for food security and economic development, we partake on the following projects. Farm to Market Road Network with the Department of Agriculture. Of course, water security with DNR as well as NIA and the PM of the Water Project. Infrastructure governance for our local government units, as well as Kadiwa ng Pangulo, and implementation of the ease of doing business are just some of our support services and programs that really support to ensure the realization of the food security and economic development. And under the leadership of Secretary Benhar Abalos, we always use our powerful allies, the local government units, as an integral element for ensuring food security and economic development. The same local government units that will really spell difference in shaping the lives of the Filipinos, because we know for a fact that sila po ang unang nakakaramdam, sila ang unang pinupuntahan at direct engagement with the Filipino families. It is in this respect that we are committed to prepare them more, prepare them better, both performance, more focused, more competitive, more enabling local institutions that we really take care of the Filipinos, particularly their needs for food availability, food accessibility, market access, and stability of life. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Undersecretary Pasaraba. And now, the Philippine Space Agency Director General Joel Joseph Marciano Jr.
So space, the final frontier and also the final word today. Kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa ating Pangulo at sa ating mga kababayan sa suporta sa ating space program at sa Philippine Space Agency, PhilSA, isang 4-year-old agency po na nagsusumikap na mag-contribute sa nation building. Nireinforce po ng ating Pangulo ang mensahe na ang space o kalawakan ay hindi po malayo sa buhay ng bawat Pilipino. Kinilala po niya na ang kalawakan ay isang importanteng domain for national security and development, for hazard management and studying climate resilience or improving climate resilience, for food security, maritime domain awareness, at pati na rin po pagbantay sa ating West Philippine Sea. Nung binanggit po ng ating presidente, yung 16 engineers natin na binubuo po kasalukuyan ng ating pinakamalaking Earth observation satellite na MULA, Multispectral Unit for Land Assessment, the President was imparting a message of hope and inspiration. He recognized the efforts of engineers and scientists in our midst, mga kapwa Pilipino po natin, na talagang dedicated po at nagpupursigi para makakontribute sa nation building. Bigyan po natin sila ng ating tuluyang suporta, palakasin pa po natin ang suporta natin sa kanila. Naalala ko po, binanggit ni Presidente ang ating mga atleta na nasa Paris Olympics. Ito pong mga scientists and engineers natin, the space engineers, space scientists, they are like our athletes competing in the international arena to improve the competitiveness and innovation of our country. Yung pong satellite na to, one final point, hindi po tayo bumibili ng satellite. Tayo po ay bumubuo ng satellite. Kasama ng satellite na to, yung lisensya para ma-manufacture ang satellite na to sa ating bansa. So this opens the door for creating a strong industrial base in this new and exciting frontier of space technology, hopefully creating better jobs for more skilled workers and improving the economic complexity of our country. And finally, inimbitahan po namin kayo sa ating Philippine Space Week, August 8 to 14 next month. Ang ating theme po ay Yamang Kalawakan, Likas sa ating bagong Pilipinas. So abangan nyo po ang ating website, ng Philippine Space Agency, social media for all the events. Maraming salamat po ulit.
Thank you, Director General Mariano, and thank you to all our cabinet secretaries. Let's give them a round of applause for all the great news. Before we end, I'd like to reflect also and bring it back to what you said last year, this time, Secretary Balisacan. You said in our path to economic development, the stars are aligned for the Philippines. And I think we have seen that in your reports and in what we've seen and what your agencies have done in the past year. As Secretary Recta said, we are on track. And I'd like to add, we are in good hands. So thank you so much to our cabinet secretaries and heads of agencies here. Thank you for your support and your participation, and of course the reforms that you're putting in place so that the President's vision of Bagong Pilipinas will come true. Thank you. And we will be back later at 12 noon with the Environmental Protection and Disaster Risk Reduction Cluster. I'm Daphne Osenia Paez, and this has been the 2024 Post-SONA Discussions.